Akhil Bharati Vidya Samagam, in which we are going to discuss understanding foundational literacy and numeracy. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all the students, teachers, teacher educators, administrators, policymakers, and ladies and gentlemen who are present here. So it is an important, we may know the issue by any name: learning crisis, learning gap, learning poverty. But the fact is that about 40% of the children in OECD and EU do not have basic reading and mathematics skills by age 15. So this issue is not specific to India, but globally. And the NEP 2020 acknowledged this fact and recommended to address this issue head-on by recommending a time-bound mission for improving the status of foundational literacy and numeracy. Developing good literacy and numeracy skill is fundamental to each individual and essential to the quality and equity of society. When children master the skills of literacy and numeracy and apply their understanding in scientific, technical, economic, social, and other contexts, it brings with it economic health and social benefits for the individual and society as a whole, and also ensures employment and economic prosperity in the future. We are gathered here to discuss this important issue today, and I take this opportunity to welcome all the panelists of this session, and I request the panelists to please take their seats. Okay. So the session will be chaired by Professor Dinesh Prasad Saklani. He is Director NCERT. The session, so we have the panelists here. So I extend a very warm welcome to the chair of this session, Professor Dinesh Prasad Saklani, Director NCERT. A warm welcome to you, sir. I welcome Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. He is the founding director, SecMol. A very warm welcome to you, sir. So we have with us Srimati Archana Avasthi. She is the Joint Secretary in Department of School Education and Literacy. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. And we have Dr. Dheer Jingran. He is the founder of Language and Learning Foundation. So very warm welcome to you, Dr. Dheer. And we have Srimati Mamta Saikia. She is the CEO of Bharti Foundation. So very warm welcome to you, ma'am. So a very warm welcome to the panelists here and the audience here. So I would like to introduce the chair of this session, Professor Dinesh Prasad Saklani. He is presently the Director, National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCERT. Professor Saklani held the additional charge as Chairperson, National Council for Teacher Education. He has previously held various senior positions in Himwati Nandan Bahuguna Gadwal University, such as Campus Director, Chief Proctor, Nodal Officer, NIRF, Head Department of History, Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, and Head Folk and Performing Arts, Convener, Library Committee, and Chief of the University Anti-Ragging Squad. He has been awarded the National Fellowship by Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla, and he was a guest fellow at IIAS Shimla. He was the Indian collaborator on German Research Foundation supported project Tantric Texts and Practices, a comparative ethnography of Tantra in Southeast Asia and Western Himalaya. Professor Saklani has worked on 7 major research projects successfully. Professor Saklani has participated in more than 100 national and 50 international seminars and conferences as a paper presenter, panelist, or as the chair, besides delivering keynote addresses and invited lectures and talks. Professor Saklani has published extensively in history, culture, and has more than 60 research papers in different national and international journals and 6 books to his credit. Professor Saklani has also been a member of European Society for Cross-Cultural and Theological Debates, Netherlands. He is a life member of the Indian History Congress. He was also awarded the Distinguished Academy Award by Punjab Kala and Sahitya Academy, Jalandhar, for his writings. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and I invite you to introduce the session and take the session forward. Professor Saklani.
Very good morning. Suprabhat. Namaskar. I extend very warm welcome to all present here, the esteemed panelists and the august gathering. We are celebrating the 3rd anniversary of NEP 2020. And this is a great occasion for us. When we celebrate birthday, it is just not the happiness of coming in this world, but also to looking forward and remembering the past. So when we are celebrating, then celebration has the responsibilities also. We remember how we have to act further. So it is an occasion to resolve, to take a decision and commit that we will do what has been mandated to us. Only then transformation and transition takes place, which is expected from our policy, NEP 2020. So at this stage, we are in this session dealing with a very basic issue, that is the foundation of education system, which we call foundational stage, and its basic requirement is foundational literacy, foundational learning. So National Education Policy 2020 has introduced a transformative curricular and pedagogical structure, that is 5+3+3+4, wherein the first 5 years from ages 3 to 8 are considered foundational years within the school education system. But we have foundational stage, which is from 0 to 8 years. We know that, and it is scientifically proven now. We remember the episode of Abhimanyu in Mahabharata, where when occasion came, then he stood that, yes, I will go to fight, and I know the art of entering into the Chakravyuh. Where he learned that? He learned that from the womb of his mother. And that has been scientifically now proven that learning starts from the conception itself. And when the conception is there, then we have to take care of the mother who is going to nourish the kid. That is the vital step where we have to intervene into this time. It was our tradition, and that's why there were 40 sanskaras. And few initial sanskaras was for the care of the mother and the kid, which is about to come on this earth. After coming on the earth, there were further sanskaras. So now, connecting to the past is important, and this policy is the philosophical shift, which we say that the policy has come after 185 years. Because rootedness in India is the hallmark of this policy. And cultural rootedness is again has been emphasized. So how will root ourselves to the roots of our own? That is very important. And that's what the policy emphasizes on. And that's why the multilingualism has been advocated. And that's why multilingualism is giving instruction in mother or the regional or the native or the local language. That is the important aspect we have to remember. So early childhood care and education plays a pivotal role in shaping the foundation of learning for the children. It encompasses not only physical, socio-personal, and aesthetic and cultural aspects, but also lays groundwork for cognitive development, including language abilities and numeracy, which is critical for their future academic journey and lifelong learning. The NEP 2020 highlights the essentiality of developing foundational literacy and numeracy skill as fundamental prerequisite for all future schooling and lifelong learning. The ability to read, write, and perform basic mathematical operations sets the stage for children's educational success and empowers them for a lifetime of learning. That's why we see that our tradition has been Shruti Smriti tradition. And if we remember that Shruti Smriti tradition, it gives us a corpus of literature. The literature which has been, I think, the most abundant literature which shaped the foundation of our civilization. And when I say that, then we remember the Vedic literature. Not only the Vedas, but the Vedic literature. It is, and Vedic literature is a gamut of all sorts of texts and scriptures, which were not written earlier, but memorized. Why it could be possible? It could be possible because the peoples were engaged in the environment, local environment. They were connected. They were having dialogue and harmony with the nature through their own language, which was Sanskrit at the time, Vedic Sanskrit. So that literature founded our civilization, one of the most living civilization on this earth as of now. इसीलिए कहा गया है कि यूनान मिस्र रोमा सब मिट गए, यहाँ से कुछ बातें हैं कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी. तो वो हस्ती, what is that? That is our basis, the foundation, which came through our own environment, our connectivity to the environment, our connectivity to the Mother Earth. भूमि सूक्त में कहा गया है ना, माता भूमि पुत्रो हम पृथिव्या. Why that's mother is very important, and our Mother Earth is very important. If we are connected to that, lot of learning takes place. That's why the locality and local issues are very important. In that way, we have to take forward the journey of learning in this time, challenging time, which has been disrupted and discontinued from series of invasions and in the colonial invasion, which actually disturbed our cultural past. So now we are coming back to our roots. And when we come back to our roots, then we'll be connected, and then we'll be going fast, learning fast. That should be the fundamental issue where we have to decide. So in that spirit, the NEP has brought out Nipun Bharat Mission in multifaceted and focuses on several key layers. It aims at enhancing access and retention of children in the foundational years of schooling. The mission emphasizes the importance of teacher capacity building to effectively impart foundational skills. Additionally, the development of high quality and diverse learning materials for students and teachers is a key aspect of the mission. To monitor progress and address learning gaps, tracking individual child's learning outcomes is also prioritized. In accordance with the recommendations of NEP 2020, the National Council of Educational Research and Training, that is NCRT, has developed a 3-month school preparatory module called Vidya Pravesh for children entering grade 1st. This module helps children transition smoothly into formal schooling. Furthermore, the National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Stage was launched on 20th October 2022, and based on that, teaching learning material for foundational stage has been developed and implemented from the current academic session only. And you might have, all of you might have been aware of the material which we developed, that is for Balvatika 1 to 3rd, that is the Jadui Pitara, and what is in that? All the toys, the cards, the numbers, the flashcards, the stories, the posters, the charts, but this is a concept. When I say concept, it means a concept purely because it is not a benchmark. If we talk of the locality and we talk of the connection to the local roots, then each and every state and each every district or even each and every school should look around and find out the local toys, local things which can enable the learning process very fast. Because the kid must know first of all about himself, then about his mother, then his family, then his village, then surroundings. That is the important. So it is not that if we have kept some toy in the Jadui Pitara, that has not become a brand. The toys of Kashmir may be different from toys of Kerala. So why do Kashmiri boy cannot play with the toys which are there? He will be more, acquainted with those things and he will grasp fast. So toys also, these material have also teaching capacity. Objects also do teach. So that is the concept of learning process where we start. So I will not speak much about this, but in this panel discussion, we aim at delving into the breadth and depth of our efforts in promoting foundational literacy and numeracy. Our esteemed panelists will shed light on the current progress, highlight challenges faced during their journey for providing foundational literacy and numeracy to a sizable number of kids in our country, and will provide valuable insights for the future direction of this vital aspect of early education. By collectively addressing these challenges, we can pave the way for a strong educational foundation, empowering our children for a lifetime of learning and success. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Saklani, for highlighting the initiatives taken by Government of India, Ministry of Education and NCERT for foundational literacy and numeracy, be it Nipun Bharat, Vidya Pravesh, NCFFS, and Jadui Pitara. So thank you so much for highlighting and setting the tone for this session. So the next speaker is Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, who's going to talk on how not to misunderstand foundational literacy and numeracy. And we are really looking forward to your session, sir. So I will take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Shri Sonam Wangchuk. He's the founding director, Students Educational and Cultural Movement, known as SECMOL. Sonam Wangchuk was born in the Trans-Himalayan region of Ladakh, India. Though a mechanical engineer by education, he has been mostly working in the field of education reform for more than 30 years. In 1988, just after he finished his engineering studies, he founded SECMOL with the aim of supporting Ladakhi children and youth in educationally challenging and culturally confusing times. In 1994, he was instrumental in the launch of Operation New Hope, a triangular collaboration of the government, village communities, and the civil society to bring reforms in the government school system. The program involved formation of village education committee to take ownership of state schools, training of teachers in child-friendly ways, and rewriting and publishing localized textbooks for Ladakh. As a result, the pass percentage at 10th grade rose from the dismal 5% to 55% in 7 years and 75% these days. As an engineer, Sonam Wangchuk has been teaching innovation at the SECMOL alternative school, where together with the students, he designed and built solar heated buildings that are low cost, made of earth, but maintain plus 15 degrees centigrade even when the outside temperature is minus 15 degrees centigrade in Ladakhi winters. In order to solve the water crisis facing mountain regions due to climate change and fast melting glaciers, he invented the ice stupa artificial glacier, which stores the unused stream waters in winter in the form of giant ice cones or stupas and releases the water in the late spring as they melt, just when farmers need water. And of late, he's doing fasting also for highlighting the issues related to the environment, though it is not a part of your CV, sir, but I want to add that important, significant thing that you're doing. And so a list of awards goes on, just to name a few. Magsaysay Award from Philippines, the GQ Men of the Year Award for Social Entrepreneur of the Year 1917 in India, Global Award for Sustainable Architecture Paris, the Rolex Award for Enterprise 2016 in Hollywood, the Terra Award 2016 for World's Best Earth Building in Lyon, France, the UNESCO Chair for Earth Architecture for India in 2014, Real Heroes Award by CNN IBN Channel in 2008, Green Teacher Award by Sanctuary Asia Magazine in 2005, Ashoka Fellowship by Ashoka Innovators for the Public, Man of the Year, and the list goes on. A very warm welcome to you, sir. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and panelists and education enthusiasts here. I'm really happy to be connecting to all of you. Yes, I wanted to talk more about our misunderstandings about literacy and numeracy more than understandings, because in today's world, it seems we have made too much about literacy and numeracy. They are very new, actually. Literacy, is like yesterday in the evolution of human beings and their minds. If you go back, most of our rishis, munis would be called illiterate, but not uneducated. Wisdom is a different thing. Literacy is a wonderful tool, and it should be seen as such. And therefore, I thought I'll share a little bit about my own personal experience and where to place these tools, because we cannot make literacy into education, which is what most of the times happens. And perhaps that's why when reading, writing is done too much and at the cost of understanding and connecting with nature and its phenomena, it becomes a huge loss. And perhaps that was the reason why Mark Twain said, "I have never allowed my schooling to interfere with my education." Very often it ends up becoming like that, so much so that whereas in the West the idea of 3 R's came up: reading, writing and arithmetic, literacy and numeracy. In Ladakh, back in the 90s, we saw some problems with it, because this is all about head alone, and head alone is not us. So therefore we said 3 H's rather than 3 R's. Head, as bright as anybody in the world, but our children should have skilled hands and a kind, compassionate heart. And that's when the world will be a better place for all, because without these, we become just arrogant individuals who are not capable of doing anything and not able to have the sensitivity to feel other people's pains. And unfortunately, our schools also have somewhat become like that. We train them only in intellectual exercises and not with hands and heart. Now, what I have seen as from my own childhood, which was very, very unusual and therefore different and gives different insights. Sometimes when we are in the middle of the crowd, we cannot sense the bigger picture. It takes going out of the picture to have an overview or a bird's eye view, and we, I think, need that at this juncture. So what I have learned from my own childhood is that it doesn't take textbooks or teachers or schools for a child to learn. It actually takes a software, if I may call in the current lingo, a software that's perhaps the world's best learning software, provided by nature. It comes preloaded on all children, rich, poor, Asian, American, whoever. And that learning software is called curiosity. Curiosity is what it takes for children to learn. Doesn't matter whether it is numeracy or literacy or philosophy or whatever later. But if we damage or delete this, then we have lost the child. So curiosity, which gives them understanding and then later confidence, at no cost, with whatever exercises we do, we should damage curiosity and confidence of the children. And more often than not, schools end up doing just that. And then we wonder, parents damage curiosity, schools do, and then we wonder why our child is not learning or wanting to learn, because that curiosity, this urge to learn, has been damaged, which was so thankfully, preloaded on the human baby, the hardware. So let me share a little bit of how I learned, whatever I learned in life. I was born in Trans-Himalayan Ladakh, as was mentioned, which is very, very remote, not just in India, but on the whole planet, I think. It's a part of the world which stays cut off from the world for half the year, even today. A few months ago we opened, and a few months later we'll be closed for 6 months. You can imagine if your roads block for one day, you have uproars. Yeah? This place stays blocked for 6 months, and it's like the third pole, it's called. Very cold, very remote, very cut off. And in this region, I was born in a tiny village of 5 households. So tiny, it had 5 households, but that was a long time ago. Today it has grown by 100% to become a village of 10 households. So one thing good about that was that a tiny village of 5 households doesn't get a school. Good, I'm saying, because in retrospect, I saw the state of schools, and then I feel I was spared all that. That happens in the schools, unfortunately. So having no school doesn't mean having no learning or education. I was one of the luckiest to be able to learn from my mother in my mother tongue, if it was literacy, much later. But before that, I was allowed to stomp around in the fields, jump into the Indus River, climb the apricot trees, chase sheep and goats in the mountains. And that's how I got all the stimulus. Learning and development of the brain is all about stimulus. It's not about A, B, C, D, Ka, Ka. It's about stimulus. Scientists are finding out that a major thrust stimulus in growth of brain is mother's touch or anybody's touch of the skin. As little simple things as touch can do much, much more than A, B, C, D. So that kind of stimulus you get in a remote rural village. You may not get in a very posh flat in New Delhi where the child is not even allowed to run out, or else it will be crushed under a car or abducted. You keep it in a flat all day, all night, hardly any stimulus, parents busy. That's what is dangerous. So this childhood without any schools was the best thing to happen to me, because I could learn from the farms much later. When I was taken into schools and colleges, I used to tease my highly famously schooled friends in engineering that when you all were learning about roots and shoots from faded pages of books, I was on the farm seeing seeds go in the ground, roots go down, shoots come up, and leaves unfurl without having to bother with L-E-A-F, leaf, and L-E-A-V-E-S for some strange reason, yeah? Rather than L-E-A-F-S. This is what we cage their minds with illogical things, and then they lose confidence that it doesn't work logically. P-U-T-put, B-U-T-but, all such things actually shake a child's confidence, and that's what you need. And curiosity to learn about. So curiosity helped me. Of course, in the beginning, my mother, after I was proficient and vibrant in my own mother tongue, with my grandmother listening to stories, with my mother, with my village neighbors, she also taught me to read and write my mother tongue. Very happy. So till 9 years of age, I didn't go to any schools and spoke nothing but Ladakhi. But when your own mother tongue foundation is strong, which is like mother's milk almost, intellectually speaking, you are able to pick up languages any time. I didn't speak any language other than Ladakhi till 9, but I went ahead and learned some 9 languages. It took me hardly 6 months to a year to learn a new language. And when you have that curiosity and the sound foundation, it's very easy. My village was on a tourist trail, and we would have tourists, and I would pick up French from them, English from them, Hindi, and all such languages. When you have grasp of things and confidence that yes, you can do, you can do. Unfortunately, at 9, I was dragged into some schools. And there ended my true learning, LEAF and all that. And I was treated almost like a retarded child because I spoke no other language, so they would put me at the back benches. I didn't ever understand why it would help me to keep me away from the teachers. Yeah, I always thought it would help me to be close, but for some logic of that kind, they did that. And that was when I was lucky. Most of the times I was kept outside the door. So today I say at least that way I was outstanding student. Anyway, I won't go into too many details, but with the grasp of things around you and the confidence and the curiosity children learn, they need stimulus more than letters and numbers. When they have that, it's on them. The onus is on them. You know, let nature do its job. Our brains are wired to learn. Children's minds are wired to learn. They can't but learn. But we come in between and interfere and, you know, put it skelter-helter, and then we wonder why they don't learn. So, anyway, much later, I was dragged into schools. I had a hard time in the beginning, but because of the Sound Foundation, quickly caught up and started doing quite well, even topping classes. And in engineering, while doing engineering, I came face to face with students from Ladakh who were going through, the so-called fortunate ones who were sent to schools. Yeah? They were going through real hard times. And there was 95% failure in Ladakh in 10th grade boards in those days. 95% failure. And while teaching them, I felt I really need to do something about this system. Before jumping with conclusions and solutions, I tried to understand what was happening in the schools. And then I saw that in the name of schooling, literacy, numeracy, they were handed textbooks from New Delhi in the mountains of Trans-Himalayas. And what it becomes then is, as I saw, going into schools to understand what was happening, one classroom in winter, minus 20 outside, minus 5 in the classroom, all the children were memorizing F for fan, F for fan. And a child asks, but sir, what is this weird thing? And the teacher scratches his head and says, son, I don't know, but I'm told it keeps you cool. And the children with eyes popping, why does anybody need to be colder than we are? So some clever person devised a beautiful theory that children should be introduced to through concrete things, the abstract things. You know, F is a squiggle. It doesn't mean anything for the child. It doesn't mean anything for us also. It's just a symbol. Why should it be F? It can be anything, but they agreed and gave it this sound, F. Now we are going to introduce it to the child. So somebody said, let's use something familiar to the child. In England, A for apple, because English children always are, you know, around apple. They have lots of apples. So apple made sense. Now to do that in Kerala doesn't make any sense. So F for fan in Ladakh does much more damage than any help in deciphering this squiggle F. So that was what was happening. And then I started wondering, how did those 5% pass? More than how 95% failed. So I started teaching, and then later together with like-minded people and definitely with the government, we started bringing reforms in Ladakhi schools to change this. So we were told these can't be changed, textbooks come from J&K board or NCRT, you can't even imagine changing them. And I said, they come from Srinagar or Delhi. They don't come from heavens, you know. And it's meant to be to improve people's lives. And I'm sure they would be happy to change things if it doesn't improve life. So I'm happy to share the panel with NCERT director, because then I went to NCERT. I spent numerous weeks quickly learning what is happening at the national capital in education. And then we devised textbooks and a system of introducing literacy and numeracy. For example, we had to introduce, for example, English. It doesn't make sense saying fan before they know the concept of fan. So we would first focus on the language that the child spoke and give them literacy in that. But when it came to English, even when, we would introduce the words first, concepts first, and bring the letter last. So it has to be, you know, first you're familiar with listening to this new word, new idea, and then you start speaking, whether it is fan, you may say soap, you may make it one of your vocabulary words. What do you have? Apple. If they don't, then make it part of their vocabulary. Make them bilingual first. They call it apple also, and whatever it is called in the language, save or apple, save or apple. When it is totally bilingual, then you bring the squiggle and the picture if you have to. Then they can easily relate. Yes, I know apple, now it is A, to remember this squiggle A. So we have to do systematic introduction so that there are no two unknowns at the same time. When you do this cruel thing of F for fan, what happens is first the squiggle F is an unknown, and the fan, the example, is unknown. Two unknowns at the same time doesn't make it easy for the child. So you first introduce fan, if you have to. First of all, in Ladakh, no fan. Definitely, maybe fire, F for fire. So the child should become second nature to call it fire also, apart from Aag or May in Ladakhi. She should be calling it fire. And then if F comes, that's second unknown, but one by one. First, we call it fire also is an unknown, so that was resolved. And then, yes, this introduces us to the sound F or fa and the letter, the squiggle F. So one unknown at a time helps. And therefore, I'll not make it long, but I'll just say that in the new scheme of things of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, I think in the first 5 years, first 2 to 3 years, it should be only about their local languages, definitely. That too, not written, only about being very vocal, very confident, very curious, and giving them all the, you know, gross and fine motor skills of writing when it comes to writing, reading readiness, I would say, and then introduce the examples from their local languages. Scandinavia, for example. While we in India introduce reading and writing at 3, or if possible, we would do at 2 and 1. I don't know how far they go backwards. But in Scandinavia, they introduce letters only at 7. And they do very well, best in the world, because they get introduced to reading and writing when their minds are ready. So perhaps in our new system also, it should not be obsessed with letters and letters. Letters are a very new, recent development. It should not be confused with education or learning. Letters are a tool. So what? So what? It's not schooling, it's not education. So first we do, maybe in the first 1 or 2 years, a lot of reading, writing, readiness, and introduction of the words. And then at the same time develop English, because English happens to be the medium at higher stages. So develop English as a bilingual language that they acquire. Then if we introduce A and B and C, or they'll just pick up. You don't have to simplify it. Their minds are complex enough to pick up from lots of exposure. Then we'll have children who have naturally acquired, like children always do. Children left to themselves will learn without us having to do it. So making it child-driven, onus is on the child to learn. That happens when you have curiosity and confidence intact. If we, in the process of doing that, destroy their confidence or curiosity, we'll be doing much more damage. So I just wanted to share that we should have a very logical, systematic way of introducing literacy, first in their own language, then in other languages, Hindi or English, by systematically introducing the speaking of the language, comprehension, and then finally literacy in that language. It doesn't take long at all. Even if you were taught, say, French or German or Russian, you won't take more than 2 weeks or so to write the letters. So that's how long it should take when it is your second or third language. We shouldn't waste a childhood on introducing an unknown language before the known is used. Your mother tongue, your local context is like a great asset to start with. It's like telling an army of soldiers, drop all your weapons and pick up these new guns and fight. They cannot, you know. You have to have tools that you are familiar with to unravel new unknown territories, which is what we don't do. We just follow a ritual of thinking that English is the language and literacy is education. Neither is true, I'm afraid. I think if we focus on building up their neural network through stimuli, and then you introduce anything, it won't take long. This is what personal experience I thought I would share. Thank you very much. I won't take long. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wangchuk. A very truly inspirational talk. So you focused on 3 H's, head, heart, and hands rather than 3 R's. You focused on letting the child be curious, and the urge to learn needs to be there in a child. The focus on learning from the mother tongue, nature as one of the tools for learning, and exploring nature is important and important stimulus. You focused on the mother tongue and then switching to other tongue from mother tongue, and so reading, writing, readiness, focus on reading, writing, readiness, and using English as a bilingual medium. So thank you so much for very inspirational talk. I'm a moderator, sir. I have to give the chits. I'm sure the audiences are hating me to do that, but then that's my role. So with that, we move on to the second session. So I invite Srimati Archana Avasthi, the Joint Secretary in the Department of School Education and Literacy. She'll be talking about joyful learning. Archana Sharma Avasthi is an Indian Revenue Services 1994 batch officer. She is an electronics engineer and counseling psychologist by education and a bureaucrat by profession. In 29 years of her career, she has worked in various capacities in the Income Tax Department, the last being Commissioner of Income Tax and International Taxation. From 2006 to 2013, she has worked as Director in the Ministry of Women and Child Development, overseeing the ICDS program, and as a Director of NIFT. She is currently serving as Joint Secretary in Department of School Education and Literacy under the Ministry of Education, and is responsible for foundational literacy, numeracy, and adult education. In her free time, she translates poems, books, articles from Hindi to English, and her translations have been published in various publications like newspapers, magazines, and Sahitya Academy Journal. So a very warm welcome to you, ma'am, and I invite you to give your presentation. Thank you.
A very good morning to all of you. I see that it is standing room only, and the first session has proved that it was worth it. So, good morning to the chairman of the session, Dr. Saklani, and the other panelists, Sonam ji and Dheer Jingran ji and Mamta ji. And welcome to Secretary, School Education and Literacy also, who has joined us for the session. And all teachers, academicians, and as Sonam ji said, the education enthusiasts to the session. So although foundational literacy and numeracy consists of many verticals like teachers' capacity building, multilingualism, environment, etc., I have tried to focus on joyful learning for this session. And I think it is in continuation of the first discourse on how the education should be taken ahead. So a few slides on what the department and the ministry is doing, and then we can talk about the joyful learning more. So NEP 2020 lays emphasis on making learning joyful. It has introduced various changes in curriculum and pedagogy in schools so as to make the learning holistic, integrated, enjoyable and engaging. So the pedagogy consists of sports-based, toy-based and art-based. And to take them forward, the recent initiatives on NEP priorities have been through Nipun Mission, Vidya Pravesh and Balvatika. Dr. Saklani had expounded on all these initiatives in his address. For Balvatika, I would request all of you to go to the exhibition after this session and see the live Balvatika there. It has all the components which we perceive should be there in the Balvatikas throughout the country. And it does not have ABC and 1, 2, 3 alone. It is basically learning by toys. So then the NCF for foundational stage is already out. It is for the ages 3 to 8. Also again, because you are all from education side, and as secretary yesterday very vociferously said that you all should read it. We are in the business of reading because we are in the business of education. So this national curriculum framework for the foundational stage should work as a Gita for that. I would not say Bible because we are. So it addresses all the domains of development, physical, socio-emotional, ethical, cognitive and language, as well as literacy, aesthetic and cultural aspects. And the Jadui Pitara is also displayed at the exhibition along with all its learning teaching material, which has been tailored for this age group specifically, 3 to 8 years. And it is already available in 13 Indian languages. This was inaugurated by our Honorable Minister of Education, Shri Dharmendra Pradhanji. Now the NCFFS emphasized the importance of play, which is at the core of curriculum organization, pedagogy, time and content organization, and the overall experience of the child, which can be free, guided or structured. To begin with, it should be free. The child should be allowed to play in company of other children in the supervision of teacher, just so as to be safe, but not guided, which can gradually turn towards guided play and then structured play with an intention to make them understand things. And it should be done through conversations, stories, music, movement, arts, craft, toys and games, which are various methods. I am sure there must be many more innovative methods which the teachers can think of. And outdoor play, of course, is actively encouraged. So what is the supportive ecosystem to provide all this to the children? First is ensuring an appropriate environment for learning, which consists of a joyful and adequate learning infrastructure and resources, and a suitable pupil-teacher ratio so that they can get personal attention. For example, a room with a say grey or a very drab colored wall in place of maybe a yellow or blue or some colorful wall which makes the children to come to school in the first place and find a vibrant atmosphere. Then there is the role of academic and administrative functionaries, of course, principals who contribute to shaping that supportive and empowering culture. Then the cluster and block level functionaries who should provide critical feedback for improvement only and basically not interfere with how it should be done. And to ensure the presence of adequate teachers, the learning teaching material and access for all other important components. Then the role of parents and community is equally important. Parents are the first teachers of the children. So they should be co-partnering with the school to aid the children and learning development. We have modules for home-based tutoring also. Not all parents may know the correct manner of imparting things, which can be helped upon by the school functionaries and other stakeholders. And the community can support in ensuring enrollment, attendance, and the observation of basic safety rules and whatever supporting environment they can provide. Then how much and how far should the technology be used for this age of children? So the technology can support in accelerating of capacity building of teachers, enabling the participation and engagement, and synergize amongst the stakeholders. And it can be used, for example, like QR coded textbooks, the translations, disability screening, training of teachers, monitoring, providing access where access is not possible. Like for example, if the schools and everything is closed for 6 months, technology can be leveraged at that time. But during the G20 discussions and after hearing many experts, it is very clear that a common understanding is that that age they should not be given electronic devices like tabs or phones to learn. So that is one point. And then there is the empowering of teachers, which should be done with proper training and mentoring. Now, Vidya Pravesh module already Director NCRT has explained that, so I would not go into the details. But the Balvatika 3 for age group 5+ years, it had started with 49 schools last year, and now with another 450 starting this year, we already have 500 Balvatikas in KVs across the country. All 36 states have initiated the implementation of Vidya Pravesh, which is again because children are children come back. Okay, so why is it not going back? Children are coming from various different environments to school in class 1. Some are coming from Anganwadis, some are coming from private schools, and some have not had any schooling before that. So Vidya Pravesh is basically a module where they are for 3 months given an atmosphere and learning so that they can properly integrate into a school smoothly. So that Vidya Pravesh is for that intention only. An ideal situation would be when we do not need Vidya Pravesh at all and all children are at a same level when they come to class 1. So I will be showing you some examples of what learning can do with good teachers. So this is one example where when the students are coming to the school, they are shown a chart where the teacher asks them in what manner would they like to be welcomed into the class. The child himself or herself decides how he wants to enter the school, and then the teacher does that. Now the child knows that these are the ways to welcome a person even into their homes or they will meet somebody. So it's just learning by example. They do not need to be written or taught this how to do it. Now this is another example where they are taught empathy, sharing and respect for elders and everything. So you can just go through it and then you can understand. So this is a bus being replicated. So you see, only the driver needed some coaching, because if he drove this manner, there would be an accident. But otherwise, apart from who all to be given priority, like an old man, a pregnant woman, mother with a child, and a child itself, they all also know how to hold the handle above them for safety. So it is teaching a lot of things at the same time without any written or reading material. These are some images of children who are learning by playful activities, by puppets with objects. And these are from the various schools actually happening in the country. This is again with playful activities. They are learning with objects. They are learning with art. This is storytelling in classroom using a picture. So at the same time, their audio skills, visual skills, everything is being utilized. This is an image of learning math in a playful manner. So these children, they do it one by one. If anybody goes wrong, they even point out in between and that is corrected. So this is a table that they are learning. Child, they do not need a teacher to teach them. A teacher could only be supervising in the class, just keeping a watch over them. The last slide, I would just like you to see it once, and then I'll speak on that. So one might see that some of them do not have footwear to wear, or they do not have proper dressing. What I saw in this is that they are so excited to go to their school that rain is not affecting them, nothing else is affecting, they just want to go. So this is what we want to achieve in the country. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting the achievements like Nipun Bharat Vidya Pravesh Balvatika, and also emphasizing on how a supportive ecosystem can be created. And you talked about the transitions that we need to focus on, like so Vidya Pravesh, ideally every child or every school is able to provide quality early childhood care and education. A joyful start of the day, focus on the empathy, learning with material, learning with art, and sharing. So, ma'am, I saw sharing in the last picture, that all the children could share an umbrella. So, thank you for an interesting talk. And now with that, we go to the fourth talk here, fourth session. So, so this is improving foundational learning at scale. And I would like to invite Dr. Dheer Jhingran to talk about this. So Dr. Dheer Jhingran, a former IAS officer, is the founder and executive director of Language and Learning Foundation, a non-profit focused on improving students' foundational learning at scale. LLF works closely with the national and state governments to support systemic reform in primary education at scale. Dheer has worked in the primary education sector for over 30 years, within and outside the government. Within the government, as an officer of the Indian Administrative Service, Dheer has served in policy-making roles in the Ministry of Education at the national level. In Assam, he was project director of the District Primary Education Program and mission director of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, as well as principal secretary education. He has also handled several other profiles, such as senior advisor to UNICEF India, advisor to the Ministry of Education in Nepal, Asia Regional Director and Chief Program Officer with Room to Read. He has made significant contributions to the development and implementation of early grade reading programs in several countries in Asia and Africa, as well as first language-based multilingual education program in several states in India. A major focus of Dheer's work has been on the design and implementation of large-scale programs for transformative and sustained change in the quality of school education. Dheer is a member of the National Steering Committee for the Development of National Curriculum Framework. He also conducts an education module at the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration. So since you're already here, a very warm welcome to you, Dr.
Just to save some time, Chair of the session, Professor Saklani, esteemed panelists, Secretary Education, and all esteemed delegates to this session. We are going to talk about foundational literacy and numeracy, and usually it is understood as some very basic skills. But I must say that literacy, for example, includes thinking and reasoning to be able to then understand in depth. It is not just understanding the letters. We'll discuss that a little more. So foundational literacy and numeracy is not just basic skills. But yes, there are skills which are needed to go ahead. And basically what we can say is that foundational skills are a sort of gateway to all future learning at school. And we are not going by Mr. Wangchuk's example only, but otherwise schooling requires that you have strong skills in literacy and numeracy. That's the gateway. But the other point I want to emphasize here is that what is required also is mastery. Maharat hasil hona chahiye isme. Unless in these foundational skills we can't say कि बच्चे कुछ पढ़ पा रहे हैं या कुछ संख्याओं को समझ रहे हैं. It must be a very strong expertise because आगे जाके चीज़ें और complicate होती हैं, जो texts हैं वो बहुत कठिन हो जाते हैं. So at this stage it is very important to acquire mastery in foundational skills and not just learn them. It's also very important along with mastery to ensure that these skills are developed in a timely manner. ठीक समय से ये कौशल विकसित हों और क्योंकि जैसे आप इसमें देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर जो शुरुआती अंतर है बच्चों में अलग-अलग पृष्ठभूमि से बच्चे आते हैं, शुरुआती अंतर बढ़ता जाता है उसके बाद और जो बच्चे पिछड़ रहे होते हैं वो कभी कैच अप नहीं कर पाते हैं. So it's very important to develop these skills at an early time. And from the graph that usually goes, you can see the red line where children who are coming from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds actually do much worse as they go across grades. But we should try and move the curve towards the yellow line and see that by grade 3, no child is left behind, at least for foundational skills. Now, there's a lot of understanding of learning outcomes right now in the country. Everyone's talking about निपुण लक्ष्य. सभी राज्यों में ये बात होती है कि बच्चों को सीखना है, निपुण लक्ष्य पाने हैं. But how do children's learning outcomes improve? There is no जादुई छड़ी for it. कोई magic wand नहीं है इसके लिए. The only way to do this is to improve learning in every single classroom. Learning can improve only if every classroom changes. Only then learning can improve at scale. It cannot be done in 200 classrooms together, 200 schools together. Important to remember that. And therefore, teaching learning, I'll skip the videos, but basically, right now what happens in schools is the teacher talks a lot, right? And we've actually measured this and seen that it is sometimes in the ratio of 90 to 10. Teachers talk and students, what students say. And what children say is confined usually to one-word answers or yes or no. That is the way in which the response happens. Obviously, that's not the best way to learn. Reading के नाम पे क्या होता है? या तो teacher पढ़ते हैं, एक बच्चा पढ़ता है और सब बच्चे उनके पीछे-पीछे दोहराते हैं. So it's a lot of choral repetition that happens. Writing is mostly copying, right? Not composing, अपने आप अपने शब्दों में कुछ लिखना. So काफ़ी चीज़ें हैं जो हमको बदलनी हैं और जब तक classrooms नहीं बदलेंगे we cannot expect improved FLN outcomes. फिर वही सतही तौर पे कुछ चीज़ें improve हो जाएंगी, बच्चे शायद letters पहचान जाएंगे, words सीख जाएंगे, but जिसको हम really foundational literacy कहते हैं वो मुश्किल होगा. What does change look like? What do classrooms should look like? I'll not play the video, but basically that children should be actively engaged. I think that is the first condition of learning. हम भी अगर कुछ सीखते हैं तो कब सीखते हैं? जब हम किसी भी काम में सक्रिय रूप से जुड़े होते हैं, हमारा पूरा ध्यान उस पर होता है। बहुत सारे मटेरियल्स का यूज़, जैसे अर्चना जी ने दिखाया, बहुत सारे मटेरियल्स अगर रहते हैं तो उनको बच्चे जब मैनिपुलेट करते हैं तो उससे काफ़ी कुछ सीखना होता है। बच्चों को अभ्यास के बहुत सारे मौके मिलें और टीचर जो है उनको छोटे ग्रुप्स में सपोर्ट करे, स्पेशली जो बच्चे सीख नहीं पा रहे हैं उनको कैसे सपोर्ट किया जाए। तो बहुत सारे बदलाव की ज़रूरत है जो हमारी आज की सीखने सिखाने की प्रक्रिया है क्लासरूम्स में। मैं चूँकि NCF से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, मैं अभी जैसे अर्चना जी ने भी बताया, मैं 3 चीज़ों पर जोर देना चाहता हूँ NCF में। वैसे तो बहुत सारे पेडागॉजिकल प्रिंसिपल्स हैं NCF में फाउंडेशनल स्टेज के, मैं 3 चीज़ों को हाईलाइट करना चाहता हूँ। पहला है कि बच्चे, छोटे बच्चे स्पेशली, पॉजिटिव एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ नर्चरिंग रिलेशनशिप्स है वहाँ उससे सीखते हैं, वो ज़रूरी है। दूसरा है जो अभी प्रेजेंटेशन में हमने सुना, खेल के द्वारा। व्हाट डज प्ले मीन, इट्स नॉट इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड, बट खेल के द्वारा सीखते हैं। और तीसरा है जो सोनम जी के टॉक में फोकस था कि वो एक परिचित भाषा अगर उनकी हो तो वो बेहतर सीखते हैं। तो ये तीनों चीज़ें NCF में कही गई हैं। मैं 3 चीज़ों पर थोड़ा सा टाइम लूँगा, 1-1 मिनट। बहुत सारे शोध कार्यों से दिखा है कि जो बच्चे छोटे बच्चे स्पेशली, और हम बात कर रहे हैं 3 से 8 वर्ष के बच्चों की, 3 से 9 वर्ष के बच्चों के, वो आपसी संबंध, रिलेशनशिप्स, पॉजिटिव नर्चरिंग वार्म रिलेशनशिप्स बहुत ज़रूरी होती हैं सीखने के लिए। और मैनी रिसर्चर्स हैव शोन दैट दोज चिल्ड्रन हु आर इन पॉजिटिव रिलेशनशिप्स एट होम एंड इन स्कूल, क्योंकि 3 से 8 की बात कर रहे हैं तो यहाँ पर घर के परिवेश की बात भी आती है, दे एक्चुअली आर मोर एक्साइटेड अबाउट लर्निंग, दे आर and they end up learning better. They have greater self-confidence and they learn better. Neuroscience and brain research has shown that these children who come through a positive environment at home, caregivers as well as school, actually develop stronger connections between neurons. Their thickness of connections is higher. And we know that all learning is making connections between neurons, strengthening of connections, developing new connections, which develop exponentially in young children. But children who are in positive relationships at school and home, these connections are actually thicker. So it's a physical thing that happens in the brain, and that's why it's very important. So that was my first point about positive relationships. और मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि कई बार हम लोग शिक्षक प्रशिक्षण में इसकी बातें कम करते हैं। हम सीधा बात करते हैं लेटर कैसे सिखाना है, जोड़ना कैसे सिखाना है, टीचर से बात करना कि किस तरह से आप क्लासरूम में ऐसा वातावरण बनाएं जिससे कि बच्चे एक सहज रूप में और आपसी संबंध बहुत अच्छे हों टीचर और चिल्ड्रन के बीच में, चिल्ड्रन और चिल्ड्रन के बीच में। दूसरा जो पॉइंट था जो इसके बाद फिर से अर्चना जी कर चुकी हैं, प्ले एज ए मीडियम फॉर लर्निंग। ये बात NCF में बहुत स्ट्रांगली की गई है। इनफैक्ट वो कहा गया प्ले इज सेंट्रल टू लर्निंग, राइट। पर हमारे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, हमारी कल्चर में हम क्या मानते हैं? एक तो ये मानते हैं कि प्ले मतलब खेलकूद, एक्टिविटी, और दूसरा ये मानते हैं कि प्ले, अच्छा बच्चों अब खेल लिया, अब पढ़ने बैठो। So there is almost like these are two different things. There is no overlap between the two. Now, what does it mean when we say that play supports learning? Play actually supports intellectual learning, socio-emotional learning, cooperation, and physical development. All this is there in the NCF. The question now is, जब मैं कई राज्यों में जाता हूँ, वहाँ की जो अभी स्टेट करिकुलम फ्रेमवर्क बन रहे हैं, वहाँ पर बातचीत होती है कि ये प्ले का अब क्या किया जाए। हमारा तो हम लोगों ने अच्छा बनाया हुआ है, निपुण में भी काम कर रहे हैं हम लोग, गतिविधियाँ हैं अच्छी, तो ये प्ले कैसे इनकॉर्पोरेट किया जाए। इट इज़ नॉट ईजी टू से व्हाट इज़ प्ले, व्हाट इज़ नॉट प्ले, बट जैसे आई थिंक सोनम जी ने कुछ मेंशन किया था, देयर आर 2 or 3 elements of that which I'd like to highlight. The first is क्यूरियोसिटी, वंडर एंड डिस्कवरी। बच्चों को ये लगे कि ये कुछ नया है, एक आंखों में चमक आए कि ये चीज़ कुछ नई समझे हैं इससे। So that is the first element of anything we can call play. It could be an activity, it could even be a good sheet in the workbook also, which is got new. अगर हमने वहाँ पर शब्द पढ़ने के बजाय एक वर्ग पहेली क्रॉसवर्ड रखा हुआ है जिसमें बच्चों को शब्द ढूंढने हैं, that could cause this curiosity or wonder. That's the first. The second is a sense of choice or agency. Again, you mentioned it, कि मैं कुछ अपने से कर रही हूँ. It's not that the teacher has only said और उसको follow कर रहे हैं हम, but एक sense of agency, sense of choice है खेलने में जो होता है. और ये खेल कैसा भी हो सकता है. क्लासरूम में बहुत सारे फ्लैश कार्ड्स फैले हुए हैं, उनको जोड़ के शब्द बनाने हैं. There's a lot of choice that the child can do. And the third, which again came in the previous presentation, was joy and fun. So 3 elements of play that you can be the universal yardstick of deciding whether what we are doing with young children in classrooms for FLN is play or not, is a sense of discovery, a sense of choice or agency, and the third is getting joy or fun out of it. And of course, as described, that conversations, stories, read-alouds, music, art and craft, all of that, of course, is a part of this, except monotonous, repetitive activities, जो हमारे classrooms में काफ़ी होती हैं अभी, वो निश्चित तौर पे खेल नहीं है. बच्चों की सक्रिय जुड़ाव उसमें नहीं हो सकती, बच्चों की सेंस ऑफ एजेंसी नहीं है उसमें. तो अगर 100 बार क लिखना है तो वो डेफिनेटली खेल नहीं है. NCF में जैसे बताया गया कि कई तरह के खेलों की बात है, फ्री, गाइडेड एंड स्ट्रक्चर्ड. If you get a chance, please look at this report from the Harvard University Pedagogy of Play. Beautiful examples of what is playful learning. I'll move to my third point of the NCF, which is very crucial, and that's almost concluding. Third point, which is again, सोनम जी ने काफ़ी उसको बहुत ही अच्छी तरह से बताया था, and NEP NCF में बहुत क्लियरली है कि एक परिचित भाषा का प्रयोग शुरुआत में बहुत ही ज़रूरी है. उसके बिना सीखना भी नहीं हो सकता और बच्चों का आत्मविश्वास जो सीखने के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है वो क्लासरूम में नहीं हो सकता है. सो लैंग्वेज सपोर्ट्स ऑल लर्निंग. जब बच्चे बात करते हैं, सुनते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, लिखते हैं, कोऑपरेट करके सोचते हैं, तर्क देते हैं, तब वो भाषा का प्रयोग कर रहे हैं. Now, so if language is so crucial for learning, obviously it must be a language that children understand and speak. It's quite obvious. So that is obvious, and I completely agree. Sonam ji ne jo kaha tha ki strong foundation of a language that children understand well and then build other languages on top of it. India में, भारत में 4, India is one of the 4th, how would I say it, countries with the 4th highest number of languages in the world. We have 48 languages as mediums of instruction, which is one of the highest in the world. But still, 33 languages which have 1 million or more speakers are not used as medium of instruction. Almost 30% children in India study through a language, मतलब वो medium of instruction है जिसे वो कक्षा 1 में आते समय अच्छी तरह नहीं समझते हैं. The language is not familiar to them. Now, of course, there are 15% teachers in the country who also do not understand the children's language in many remote areas, in tribal areas and other places. Now, the answer is not to make every language as the medium of instruction. That may be difficult in our country. But what was mentioned again is this multilingual approach, जिसकी NCF में भी बात है, कि बच्चों की भाषाओं को हम क्लासरूम में लेके आते हैं. Let's get these languages in the classroom. They will be used formally, even if it is not the medium of instruction. They can be used for a lot of conversation, for discussion, for explanation, for learning other languages, for deep understanding of any higher order concept, but they are in the classroom officially as a part of the formal classroom teaching and learning process. So ये multilingual approach जिसमें हम बच्चों की भाषाओं को साथ में लेके चलें, और जो अन्य भाषाएं हैं, जो राज्य की भाषा है, अंग्रेजी है, they will also be a part of this. So I think it's very important in our country to look at multilingual approach. Last point that I want to make is this, that FLN at scale, that's what I said in my presentation, and all the state governments are engaged in trying to implement FLN at scale. 5,000 schools, 10,000 schools, 100,000 schools, UP is 110,000 primary schools. It requires a very clear vision of what is the change. And that vision should be not just with the Secretary of Education, but from Secretary to the block education officer, district education officer, and the teacher. They should understand कि क्या बदलाव चाहते हैं, क्लासरूम में क्या होना चाहिए, सभी एक तरीके से समझते हैं उसको, एक ही भाषा में उसको एक्सप्रेस कर सकते हैं. ये पहला पॉइंट है. और मैं लास्ट पॉइंट, इसको बस सारे एक साथ ही कर. So from the work that I have done and we have done in the last 7-8 years with several state governments, we found that these 6 elements seem to be absolutely crucial for FLN to succeed at scale. The first is comprehensive FLN solutions. इसका मतलब यह है कि we work on, we should have good children's learning materials, we should have good teacher handbooks, we should have very good training programs, we should have programs to build capacity of mentors, BRC, CRC, teacher mentors, जो teachers को जाके support करते हैं, good assessment practices, and all these should be in a practical way. अगर आप देखते हैं कि the need is multi-grade teaching. बहुत सारे हमारे स्कूल ऐसे हैं जहाँ 1 या 2 टीचर हैं. So the training module must address how do you attend to multi-grade teaching or multi-level teaching, for example. So comprehensive solutions FLN के होने चाहिए. दूसरी बात है design for scale. हम ऐसा कोई बहुत फैंसी चीज़ नहीं बनाएं जो कि हमारे 10 स्कूलों में 100 स्कूलों में काम कर जाए, पर उसके बाद वो टीचर्स के लिए और सिस्टम के लिए बहुत बर्डनसम हो. इट शुड बी डिजाइंड फॉर स्केल. इट कैन बी स्केल्ड एंड रेप्लिकेटेड इजीली. द थर्ड पॉइंट which is very crucial is that use data and evidence to see हमको कहाँ जाना है, अभी हम कहाँ हैं, बच्चे कितना सीख रहे हैं, अभी क्लासरूम कैसे हैं और क्लासरूम्स में क्या बदलाव आ रहा है, कितना बदलाव आ रहा है, अभी क्या चीज़ें नहीं हो रही हैं, right? So it's important to look at data and try and understand where we are. And of course, for all of you, those who work with the system, is this, that system strengthening is very important. हम कई बार क्या होता है कि भूल जाते हैं, एक प्रोग्राम करते वक्त ये भूल जाते हैं कि एक सिस्टम है, वहाँ पर चाहे आप कहें डाइट्स हैं, SCRTs हैं, डायरेक्टरेट्स हैं, ब्लॉक एजुकेशन ऑफिस, डिस्ट्रिक्ट एजुकेशन ऑफिसेस, they should be a part of this reform. They must understand this reform. It is not a project that we are implementing. This must be sustained over time. तो जो assessment practices हम नई बना रहे हैं, जो हम चाहते हैं क्लासरूम में चेंजेस हो, किस तरह से क्लासरूम्स को देखा जाए, वो सब एक तरह से कोडिफाई हो जाए जिससे कि आगे भी वो चलता रहे. ऐसा नहीं हो कि 2-3 साल 5 साल काम हुआ जब तक निपुण भारत है और उसके बाद ये कंटिन्यू नहीं कर पाए. तो सिस्टम जो है उसको साथ में लेके चलना बहुत ज़रूरी, कई बार हमें भूल जाते हैं. एंड द लास्ट पॉइंट ऑफ कोर्स इज दैट कुछ एनेबलिंग कंडीशंस हैं जो अभी भी कई राज्यों में सब जगह नहीं हैं कि टीचर की अवेलेबिलिटी हर जगह हो. अभी भी सिंगल टीचर स्कूल हैं, कुछ टीचर लेस स्कूल भी हमको दिखते हैं जब हम जाते हैं. और साथ में ऑफ कोर्स इंस्ट्रक्शनल टाइम सफिशिएंट हो, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लीडरशिप हो. और अगर हम प्री प्राइमरी एजुकेशन को स्ट्रेंथन नहीं कर पाएंगे तो कितना भी हम कक्षा 1 से 3 में काम कर लें, वी विल नॉट बी एबल टू अचीव दो स्ट्रॉन्ग FLN रिजल्ट्स. सो ट्राइंग टू गेट अ स्ट्रॉन्गर अर्ली चाइल्डहुड एजुकेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Dr. Dheer. You highlighted positive nurturing relationship, play, use of familiar language to learn an unfamiliar language, multilingual approach, and some points which are needed for scaling up FLN initiative. So thank you so much. And with that, we come to the last speaker, Srimati Mamta Saikia. She'll be talking on FLN journey of rural Satya Bharti schools. Mamta, so I'll just cut short your introduction, ma'am, but I need to introduce you. So Mamta Saikia is the Chief Executive Officer of Bharti Foundation, and she has played a key role in conceptualization of Foundation's flagship program, Satya Bharti School, which she'll be talking about. She has served as the chair of SAFRG and has been honored 2019 Influencer Leader by AACSP International Organization. And she has earned lot of, conferred lot of Karamveer Puruskar. So,
what a challenge it is to come and speak after such exceptional speakers. So I'll take the permission of Chair, Secretary Education Ji, and my co-panelists to tell you a story and end this session at a story. I don't know how many of you know about Satya Bharti Schools by Bharti Foundation. We have almost 40,000 children in our schools. So by any private foundation, it's not a small schooling system. We work only in the villages of our country and only with disadvantaged children. Before COVID happened, FLN was not even an issue in Satya Bharti schools. You know, so I remember we had this exercise of every month, we give a common topic to all the students, all 40,000 students, irrespective of what class you are in. Let's say a topic would be, what if you have 100 rupees? You know, and our academic team used to report, little kids would write stories like, मैं मम्मी के लिए चप्पल लूँगा क्योंकि मेरी मम्मी के पास चप्पल नहीं है. You know, so empathy, values, what they are seeing in the house. Our students from Punjab, there was one student who took that 100 rupees, bought eggs, after that set up a chicken farm, ended up buying a Mercedes. You know, but then there were entrepreneurship skills. And then COVID happened. When COVID happened, of course, like all the teachers in the country, our teachers were taking classes over phones, going to communities. But then children came back to schools. And all the people here who've been in classrooms, you know what the situation was. We all human beings were broken. We came back with things in families that you can't deal with. You came back a little subdued. We looked at our children. Satya Bharti children used to be naughty, absolutely naughty, noise in the class. You go and ask them a question, they'll ask you 2 questions back, right? And our children were subdued, and when I would talk to them, their eyes on the floor. So we knew that we were dealing with a completely different situation. And our teachers, they said, the strategies, the tools that we've used in the past are just not working as effectively. And that is when our journey started. I'm not here to tell you, hey, we have kind of achieved a lot. No, it's a struggle, and all educationists know over here. Education and learning journey is an everyday exercise. So I'll take you through this journey now. NEP, the guidelines, Nipun, has guided us quite a lot. And we have taken a lot of learnings and a lot of good practices into our school. These 3 development goals are very key to everything that Bharti Foundation has done since COVID. So we actually had a session, like Dr. Jingran was saying, get block education officers, district education officers, everybody involved. Ours is a much smaller system, so we were very lucky. We got a set of teachers, principals, our cluster coordinators into a classroom, and we said, tell us what are we dealing with. Let's list down what's happening in our classrooms, what's happening in our schools. A long list of challenges were put in place. So we knew, we said, okay, can we fix everything in year 1? Or are we fixing key things first and getting ready for some things for the next year? Those decisions were taken along with the field team. But what was very critical for us was getting the supporting system working. Because before any kind of guidance is given to teachers in the classroom, before you tell them what is to be done, entire system has to come together to support the system, the teacher in the classroom. So we re-looked at our classrooms. We knew that we have to, if I may use this phrase, we have to up our game in the classrooms now. We re-looked at how we have to train the teachers. I'll talk about this quickly, and I'll finish my presentation quickly. I'm very well aware of the time. All our academic mentors, administrative officials were trained on the challenges that are on the ground and the kind of changes we are planning to bring about, so that there is no disparity between what a teacher is doing in the classroom and when an academic mentor or an observer moves into the classroom, he or she doesn't understand what's happening. Parents and community became a very key tool, and they continue to play a very important role in our classrooms. I'll talk about that as well. I was telling Dr. Jingran and Professor Dinesh as well, in Satyabharati schools, it was very important for us that when we walk in, the shoes of our children are dirty. That means they've been playing in the ground, right? For us, activities were very critical. Technology was, and I'll admit over here, not that strong, right? But after COVID, we saw the role technology can play in the school, and we brought technology in. So this is what was happening in the classrooms. Teachers said not only there was learning loss, we were used to very talkative kids in Satyabharati schools. So they said articulation, ability to articulate and speak has been lost. Attendance was an issue. Not having a steady routine at home meant that they were just not able to sit in classrooms for 35 minutes or 40 minutes of period. Energy and attention deficit was also an issue that teachers reported. So we focused on 3 big ticket items. Very important was improving overall children's well-being. And you know, I've picked up photos, I've spent time picking up pictures to give you a message. We made our classrooms happy. We introduced, after assembly, 15-20 minutes of, you know, either teachers telling stories, children clapping, or there's meditation, a bit of exercises, a bit of yoga. And teachers had to enjoy themselves along with children, because teachers are also human beings. Teachers were also broken. So we had to bring that joyfulness back into our teachers as well. We focused FLN approach, and we looked at teachers' capacity differently. So apart from making sure that there was joyful teaching learning material, we did a lot of training of teachers on that. We brought in a lot of standard TLM material into our classrooms, but teachers' creativity was very important, and I'll tell you 3 incidents that I've heard about today itself. What we did, we made parents our partners. So our teachers on Saturdays would call parents of pre-primary, 1st and 2nd for a 1-hour session. I hope that photograph is there. She will actually give them 2-3 games, that these are the games you will play at home, you know. Or she would tell them, mix these different kind of dals and rajma, let a child separate that. Or put utensils of different size, let a child arrange them. We made sure that parents became our partners. Child safety was a big thing, because when children came back after COVID, there was a sense of fear. So while in Satyabharati schools, we have, in every process, child safety is ingrained, but COVID introduced new processes, very important to make children feel safe. So we made happy classrooms. There were morning routine I've talked about, hygiene practices, and child safety. This is the Parents Connect. So this is a very good practice. We've been using it for last 10 years now. So from class 3 onwards, and this is what strengthens our FLN. So from class 3 onwards, we turn all our students into teachers. We give them a very small booklet. It is just 7 to 8 pages booklet. And they're supposed to teach either their father, illiterate mother, or illiterate grandparents. Or parents ki assessment hoti hai after this is finished during summer holidays. So when students become teachers at home, from class 3 onward, they're actually training their parents on, you know, basic words and reading. And so I remember once we had gone, and there was somebody from MOE also, he had come in. There was a father who had come with a chit in his pocket. So first he took entire assessment. He read whatever we gave him, newspaper. Then he said, my daughter has now passed out from this school. These were our junior school up to class 5. Now she's in class 8th. She's teaching me English now, and she has told me that I must read this. So he read an English simple sentence in front of us. Students as teachers are very good learners, and this strategy has worked a lot for us. So I was talking to my head of training and curriculum is here, and she's just returned from school visits. She said, you know, one of the teacher, while using puppets, she had actually made, so she was telling a story of different characters. So for us, what is very important is that teachers bring in creativity, because you can only supply very limited amount of material to them to use in the classrooms. So I'll talk about my own personal journey. I went into class 1, and I suddenly saw one of the mother teacher there. She was using a old keyboard. So some computer must have been sold. She went to the Raddiwala. She bought a keyboard. And what is she using that keyboard for? Alphabet identification. You only need imagination, right? And Kirti was telling me, she was doing classroom observation. She said she went to one of the classroom. So we use, can you see there's a TV there? So we use, we call digital classroom. We provide one TV. What is it that this teacher did? Sorry. What is it that this teacher did? She was playing a video. So there was a story going on, but she had muted it. She muted the story, and now it was left to children's imagination to create and think their own story. What is very critical is that we let the creativity of teachers, just give them that freedom to be creative. Because there is only very little that we can provide as FLN kits into the classroom. Some of the initiatives based on NEP inputs as well, I will not go through them. I'm sure all of you can read these. The last one is we also train, not only we train parents on activities, we also do a mobile PTM for parents of higher classes. We actually tell them some good apps where they can pick up material for their kids. These are our classrooms. You can get a sense of activity and energy in our classrooms. Very critical things, project-based learning, storytelling. And like I said, our teachers said we need help. Many of our strategies are not working. So we did a lot of upskilling, we did a lot of retraining, storytelling, playway method, projects have become a mainstay of Satyabhati schools today. And you see our happy teachers with various material. Technology, of course, but involvement of parents is key in Satyabhati schools to bring about a change. You can see, you know, this is AR/VR being used to bring various animals into classrooms, so obviously children could see it on the TV. This was one of our Punjabi teachers. She looked at an English phonetic book. So she actually created a book to teach Punjabi. And today this book is being used in all our schools. Our children are very good at Google Forms now. So we do happiness survey. And after COVID, you know, we were quite shocked by the way children had answered questions. So of course, after a year and a half of these activities, we were very happy to see that the average score of happiness went up by 26%. Yes, there were certain classes and certain schools which were lagging behind. Something that worries me even today is, like I said, our children are very talkative. In Satyabhati schools, we make sure that there are a lot of volunteers and community people keep coming in because it improves communication skills of children when they are interacting with external people. There are only 58% of students which strongly agree that they feel confident talking to visitors. And Satyabhati schools where all children were talkative. So these are some of the areas, and like Dr. Jingran was saying, use data. So these are some of the areas that we have to work on. I don't have to share this with you because I believe that with children, making sure that they're achieving the competencies that they're supposed to, there is no baseline and end line. It's always a journey, and all teachers have to continue to stay at it. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mamta ji, for sharing your journey, your initiatives with us. Can we just... So I'm really sorry that we won't be able to take any questions because the next session is waiting here. So may I request you to... Sir, people are waiting for the next session. So we won't be able to... You can write your questions. Maybe we can direct it to the people. Ma'am, no, the eight, if we allow one, then they're waiting. So, okay, one or two. Just questions, please. Yes, Srikanji, my bias. Huh?
For me, the biggest challenge is that, especially in FLN, educated parents, they want written tasks from the day one of the schooling. And coaching institutions are pumping in material from the foundational level. This is another challenge. Thank you.
My question is, good morning, namaskar, and pranam to all panelists. My question is related to Sonam Mongso, sir. I'm from Sikkim. I'm Joint Director SCRT Sikkim. Right from the report of the first Education Commission, all the commissions have strongly recommended for community participation in the process of education. But somehow we have not been able to take them on board the way it should be, to the extent it should, to the degree or to the extent the community participation should be there. So coming to the FLN, it also, I think, requires a great degree of community.
Be specific. Yeah. Ask your question.
So how do we increase community participation in FLN, achieving FLN? Thank you.
So I think you touched a very important point. Community participation was the backbone of what we did in Ladakh also, because we want people to take ownership of schools. Private schools have boards and owners, but government schools have nothing. So engaging people to own up the school was so useful, so practical, not only in general upkeep of the school, but also parents would arrange teachers from among the community. We can't depend on 5 or 10 or 20 teachers. They are too limited for the children's curiosities. Why not engage the whole village? So the village education committee, if you remember from the previous education policy, were very good. They would engage all the village, get the gardeners, carpenters, weavers in the school, take the children there, do the midday meal and all. I don't know, but nowadays I see SMCs, which are only parents of the children and teachers. The whole village doesn't seem to be getting as engaged as it used to be in VECs, which I think helps in many ways of ownership and also helping arrange teachers beyond the staff of the school. Regarding, sir, your parents expecting reading, writing day one, that is a problem. I think it should be addressed because we are limiting children's neural networks by engaging them in just letters and things, whereas there's so much more to happen in schools. So litrifying the early childhood education in some ways so that teachers and parents value all other experiences as much as reading and writing needs to be done somehow. I don't know. Maybe you have
so may I request the chair to conclude the session?
Thank you. First of all, I am very thankful to all of the esteemed panelists. We have the real heroes here who have been working. Sonamji is with us. And from where we started learning from the nature through mother and mother tongue. That is one important message. And we all know that. I think I have also done the same thing. But most of us should remember now for our kids that what we have done, we have to carry that forward, and only then literacy and numeracy can be successful. That is one thing. Archana ji has also shown some initiatives by the ministry and the department, what we are doing and how we are making learning process a creative one. joyful one. That is very important, and where there is happiness, everything is there. We learn positively, and if we are happy, then we become positive and we learn fast. That is one very important point which I have to take note of. Dheerji also worked in the field, and he realizes that the system must be changed and the system must be vibrant one. And if system and society are not collaborating, then we cannot achieve any target. The collaboration of system and society, synchronization in both is important, and that's why we remember that the teachers must develop the contact with the family. All of teachers try to make contact with the family and the family members. Through them, we can teach the students in a real sense. Then the Mamtaji also shared her experience, and she is doing very wonderful job by creating a new thing which is somewhat required at this time, that all sorts of activities, and then not focusing on just reading and writing. Reading, writing comes of its own if we are learning from our surroundings. That is also very important. So I am thankful to all of you, the audience here. I am sorry that we could not take questions. Our secretary sir is also there. He must have been something to talk with Sonamji and all others. And we have our officers from the ministry also, Additional Secretary Vipinji. So I am thankful because time is very less. Thank you very much. And thank you for cooperating and making this panel successful.
We just need to give the presentations to the panel members. So may I request Charanjit Taneja ji to felicitate the chair. Sab kuch, हाँ, हाँ. दे दो, आप भी दे दो, दे दो.